Ask Reddit, what's the most embarrassing NSFW thing that's ever happened to you in public? I was at a gig. The band playing was called Decapitated. One guy I met that night decided to crowd surf me. It went wrong. I began to fall. My glasses flew off into the abyss. He grabbed my t-shirt and it tore in two. Then people tried to catch me by grabbing my jeans. Then fell down along with my underwear to my ankles. I was on the floor. Blind and naked. I was performing in a play, and had a very quick costume change off stage and had like 90 seconds to change these Victorian-style dresses /. So my bestie was also in the show, and he was off stage, waiting with the costume so I could get into the new dress, get it zipped up, and we walk out together. This dress was an open and low neckline and I could not wear a bra with it, so I was basically nude while changing backstage. That part wasn't too bad, and he was the only one who got the full shot and he was gay and we'd known each other 20 years, so it was all good in that aspect. My takeaway with this, an OBRA. However, he had forgotten to completely hook the sides that required being cinched up. So we go on stage, do the dinner scene, everything great. The dinner scene ends up turning into a chase scene with all characters at the table running around chasing each other. I slip in front of the table, hitting the stage and sliding on my stomach, facing the audience. And my boobs had both fallen right out. In front of the audience. It was easier not to see my boobs, they came right the hell out, I'm splayed out, and before I realize what's happened, I stand up and see, oh hey, there's my boobs on the wrong side of my costume. My bestie comes over and covers me and we get me fixed fairly quickly. The fall, my boob show, and the fix probably happened within 20 seconds total, it just felt like hours. He turns to the audience and says, folks, you definitely got your money's worth tonight. When I was 6 years old, I was super skinny. My parents enrolled me in a judo class, and after about a month or so of practice, the parents were all invited to a judo competition. Before things started, one of the instructors was demonstrating a basic flipping someone over the back technique. I was chosen to be the one flipped by the instructor. When the instructor demonstrated the flip, my judo pants went flying off into the spectators, leaving me laying on the mat in just my tightly witties. I saw a badass documentary on bears. There was a segment about this black bear that had mange and they were trying to save it. They shaved all its fur off and it looked insane. Looked like a monster tbh. Anyways, flash forward to Thanksgiving, my whole family is sitting around a new projector that we hooked up in the living room, sharing funny videos and pictures and having a good haha time. My grandma/grandpa, mom, dad, sisters, uncles, everyone is present. I'm like, hey, I got a good one I think you guys will think is interesting. So on the Thing projector in front of my whole family, I typed naked shaved bears into the Google search on an 88-foot projector. Thing God that day haunts me every time I close my eyes at night. Orthopedist walks into the operating room and takes a look at the screen, which shows the patient's right leg with multiple fractures. Seconds later, he says out loud, how the F are we going to fix that? Everyone in the room falls silent and turns their gaze to the orthopedist, and the anesthetizer whispers, he's in spinal anesthesia. The orthopedist's eyes widen for a moment, he clears his throat and says loudly, we'll make a leg out of this yet. Scalpel number 10, please. Wore a costume to a huge Halloween party one year that included an ill-fitting G-string. At some point, my ball slipped out of the pouch and I was too intoxicated to notice. Spent a good portion of the party walking around cluelessly exposed, before someone eventually told me. Opened up my laptop in the school library to do some homework. Turns out I had not closed the corn that I was watching the night before, didn't have headphones in, so the noise of a chick getting absolutely railed played through the speakers. When I was like 13, a folklore dance group I was a part of were touring abroad. While in a hotel, I was taking a shower in my room's bathroom, when I heard a bunch of giggles from the other side of the door. I thought those were just the other members of the ensemble, all kids like me, messing around in the hallway of our room, but when I exited the bathroom, I discovered that they had been peeping on me, all laughing hysterically. You can imagine that's a pretty heavy blow for a teenager, so I burst into tears from rage and betrayal, and the atmosphere in the bus for rest of the road trip was pretty awkward. 10 years ago, I accompanied a friend to a crowded boot store so he could have a photo of his pet dog printed onto canvas. He had to upload the photo via USB on the store computer, which was surrounded by families. He happily put the USB in, blissfully unaware that instead of being greeted by a picture of his lovable mutt on the oversized monitor, we, and the many people around us, would be greeted by multiple deep pics that he'd neglected to delete. Why he had dozens of photos of his own dong uploaded to a USB, God knows, but I couldn't question him instantly, seeing as by the time I digested what I'd seen, he'd already pulled the USB and ran from the store at full sprint, leaving me with the hordes of stunned grandmothers, disgusted parents, and upset children. I was sitting in college ordination, trying to select my courses, and I bled through my tampon. It was July in Florida, and I had traveled over an hour by truck with no AC and was running around the campus all day. I was soaked with sweat. I knew I started leaking, but didn't realize how bad it was as I was already wet and overheated. I couldn't excuse myself, because I was with an overbooked advisor. When I was finally able to leave, I couldn't find the bathroom, and I was frantically running around this whole building. I had to go back and ask the receptionist. When I finally found the bathroom, I was able to take stock. My khaki shorts were soaked with blood. I had blood running down my legs and into my shoes. It was so bad that the blood even stained my socks. I knew I left a bloody puddle on the seat I was on, absolutely ruining it. My mom just dropped me off and went back home, so I had to wait over nearly 2 hours in a bathroom stall to find me with new pants. I cried so hard and immediately went home. It was the first day of orientation, and I didn't come back until it was dorm move-in day. It was the most embarrassing thing to happen to me. At least now I look back on it with amusement. Close to my final year, I had another appointment in the office. There was a chair in the waiting room with a very large muddy stain on it. I'm pretty sure it was the chair I sat in. My husband, but at the time boyfriend, and I went to JCPenney or Macy's or something like that. A department store in a mall. We were in high school and I was looking for a swimsuit to wear to a pool party our friend was having, as mine was old and faded looking. He came into the dressing room area so I could ask what he thought of this one, because I didn't want to walk out onto the sales floor like that. Well, I guess it was a good one, cause he pushed me inside the dressing room and we could not help ourselves. We were the only ones in the dressing room, but were being as quiet as possible. Until it was over. I queefed so loud. So loud, guys. Not just once, but multiple times, which made me start laughing, which made it happen more, which, circle. You know. He is doing his best to stifle his laughter. We were not the only people in the dressing room. A woman a few doors down goes, "Yeah, girl." Yeah. And, farts? Maybe? Really loud also. We came out and did the walk of shame, as there was a small crowd of employees standing around trying to find out who the fart laugher was. I could have died. Some 20 years ago, I was getting road head and my former youth pastor pulled up next to us to wave because he recognized my car. I was visiting my GF in Jersey. Parents made me sleep on a couch in the den while she slept upstairs in her room. We were both in college and used to doing what the fuck ever whenever. Wanted to get frisky, so we drove out to the boardwalk at night and started getting it on. Some homeless dude walked by and started obviously watching, super embarrassing when we noticed, and drove away quick. One time on a flight to Vegas with some friends, as the plane was about to land, I got super nauseous and felt like I was going to throw up. The flight attendant started to tell me to take my seat while we landed, but she saw the look on my face and let me make my way to the front lavatory. I didn't throw up, so I unzipped my pants and pulled out my junk to pee, then felt nauseous again and rested my head against the wall as the plane made its bumpy landing. I was first off, and I was in a bad mood / embarrassed, so I walked briskly to baggage claim by myself. Then waited for my bag. Then met my friends, one of which put his arm around me and said, "Your D is out." I walked through a busy airport. Airport security thought an adult toy was something else. She proceeded to wave it around above her head loudly, asking what it was. It was pretty damn obvious what it was. I am still convinced her sole purpose in the display was to embarrass me. I teach skincare, vocational school, my students are adults, and was in the office during a planning period making a presentation on how to do a back treatment and thought, my opening slide should be a picture of a woman's bare back. So I Google image searched bare back on the school computer, surrounded by other educators and students. When you're an aesthetics educator, you have to get really creative with your Google searches. Facial is forever spa facial moving forward. When I was younger, 18/19, jumped out of the shower and threw some sweatpants on to run downstairs to the liquor store we lived above. A bunch of friends were hanging about outside. As I walked past them I dropped my wallet, bent down to pick it up, and my roommate, who was down there with our friends, whipped my pants down. My meat and veg were in full display to everyone shopping at the shopping center. Moral of the story is there is always time to put on underwear. You don't need a beer that bad. Take care and remember to stay hydrated, friend.